Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Matthew Cox, joined by my esteemed colleagues, Ky Mckeon, Jim Root. We are the three men who weave every Monday, dropping another BBOC pod on your head, in your eye hole, talking all things betting the world of college hoops. Conference play is fast approaching, so a lot of meat on the bone. Our usual six pack of sections remain discussing key games of the week, power conference, mid majors, everything in between. Before we get to all the goods, let's kick it to our guy Stuckey for a quick message from our sponsor, DraftKings.
The Big Bets on Campus podcast has teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code BBOC when signing up with DraftKings. Again, that's promo code BBOC when signing up, and bet $5 to get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours.
All right, boys, let's begin. First off, our big games section. There's a lot of big conference games looming, but a couple of non-conference games we want to highlight. Again, we're going to focus mostly on the Monday and Tuesday portion of the week slate, recording here on Sunday. Really only one key non-con game on Monday, a couple on Tuesday, but the Yale-Alabama one sticks out on Monday. It should be a super high-scoring game. And then Tuesday, we got Louisville at Cal, little ACC kickoff, Butler at Creighton, little Big East action, and then New Mexico at Boise. To RI were sort of the four games on those 2 days. Any take, Jimbo, on the Monday, Tuesday spread, total, team total, derivative of your choice that sticks out with these matchups?
Well, I'm very intrigued by the Yale game, Matthew, because this is our bid for the two-bid Ivy. This is what we got, the one we need for our Bulldogs going on the road to the Tide. Nate Oates always schedules like a madman. Should be a super high-scoring game. I'm very curious to see how Yale does on the offensive boards. It is not a super strength. They're 57th in the country in offensive rebound rate, but Samson Alaton is a complete monster there. You could make a case that he's the best big man in this game, which is shocking against an SEC caliber team. Townsend, also a beast, a guy that just, he kind of plays the point for them, a little bit point forward, despite being 6'7", 240. Yale's just a really fun watch, and as awesome as Alabama's backcourt is, it's the kind of game where if they get into a shootout, Yale gets confident. I could see them really hanging around, and I know there's a lot of possessions, and that certainly helps the favorite. We typically talk about that. High possession game definitely plays better to the favorite. I think Yale's going to stick around, though, despite some potential looming shooting regression for them, because they're top 5 in both three-point percentage and free throw percentage. I just think they're really good, and I think they end up hanging around in Tuscaloosa on Monday.
Man, two-bid Ivy would be cool. I do think it'd be possible because I think they can run the table in conference play. I think they're that much better than the other Ivies, and heck, that would probably be good enough for the NCAA tournament, although we'll see what the committee does. Going to be a great game. Yale, top 20 offense. The question is their defense, but you go back in these in NCAA tournament games, I think of the one 2 years ago against Auburn. That was a game I thought Yale might get blown out a bit against a superior athletic team that played fast. Yale hung. Hey, they actually won that game by 2 points. I'm not saying they're going to win against Alabama here, Matthew, but I do think they can hang around. I think Alabama probably scores 100, but heck, I think Yale can put up 90 or so, and Ken Baum has us at, a 13-point spread. I would lean towards the Yale Bulldogs here on a Monday night.
Yeah, I just don't touch these. Like we talked about, the high possession games with high totals, numbers going to play to a smaller number. And I know that the Yale offense and defense splits have been pretty stark. It's odd you think Yale's a better defensive team. It's not really skewed by their opponents. They've actually played a lot of mediocre offenses. The only real prolific offense they played is Akron. Game they won, shockingly, in my opinion. And Monday, the other games we didn't talk about, just to bring them up, I didn't have any profound takes. Now we're trying to highlight games in more depth where we have profound opinions. But McNeese, Michigan, Utah at Washington, kind of a throwback Pac-12 matchup there. And then Lipscomb going to Cincinnati. I'm not sure we can even call that an upset if Lipscomb wins, but that spread's probably going to be about 8-9, I'd guess.
You think that low? Wow.
Yeah.
No, I really don't either. I think we'll bring up a couple of those power games in the fave section, Matthew. but I got
Yep.
nothing in those other ones. Yeah.
How about Tuesday, where we have a few more of the bigger conference, again, Big East ACC. We mentioned Louisville at Cal, Butler at Creighton, and New Mexico at Boise. I think the Cal spot's a really good one for Mark Madsen. They've not been the healthiest so far, but I think they're deep enough. The way they played, who was it, UCLA at home earlier this year. I just think this is a team that's going to rise. And Mark Madsen, this is kind of the year I think he breaks through with some big wins, especially at home in conference play. We've seen how much home means in these, spread out, disjointed conferences. Maybe that changes this year. But of the ones that stuck out to me as like kind of a vintage home dog spot, I like Cal in this one.
You got to mention the possibility that Mikel Brown Jr. is out or limited for
Yeah.
Louisville. I imagine he'll be back after Christmas, start a conference play, but that is a long way to go for Louisville after Christmas. Looking ahead, they go Cal, Stanford, and then on January 6th, they come back to host Duke, a rather important game for the ACC. I could see this team. It's not super young with Brown and Frew coming over from Germany. Like he's young to D1, but not young in general. I could see this being a little lackadaisical for them, Kai, with the long travel and just a little bit of Duke on the mind when they get back to the East Coast. Maybe Kelsey, the rah-rah cheerleader pom-pom guy, will have them fired up and locked in. But they haven't been very good away from home. Their two road games, Tennessee, Arkansas, were bad. So I kind of like the Cal angle there, and I think there's a lot of points in that game too.
Yeah, 0-2 in true road games. Love pointing that out. And Cal's not terrible. In fact, at least I have been on the Cal bandwagon the last couple of years, and I guess I hopped off it this season. Heck, this is their best team under Madsen, I think. They have a shot at the tournament right now. Lots of length up and down the roster. I think that helps to combat Louisville. Justin Pippen came back last game. Matt mentioned Cal injuries a bit. Pippen's been incredible for them this season, coming over from Michigan, running the offense. It's just kind of scary to fade Louisville, Matt. I don't like doing it because of how much firepower they have offensively, even without Brown, how hot they can get from three, how they run in transition, their pace. But I do lean towards Cal at +6 is what Kempon would have it at. Would assume the market would bet that down a little bit if I had to guess, especially if Brown is out, but would lean towards Cal's way.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up. My screen just crashed here. I had Mark Madsen as a dog ATS splits. I think they're pretty good. So just take that for what it's worth. I'll confirm here in a sec. But that's also kind of playing into my cap there for the home Bears. Anything else that stuck out to you guys on Tuesday? Frankly, there's a lot of like games between I would call middling, bubblicious ACC Big East teams like Seton Hall at Marquette. We'll talk about that as sort of a spot play later. And I had nothing profound on the Boise New Mexico game, although it feels like maybe a game where New Mexico could start to creep into bubble contention with the win there at Boise, and kind of keep the Mountain West multi 3 to 4 bid hope alive at this point.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards the Lobos
I
sticking around
lean Lobos
Boise.
too. Yeah, they're
They
starting to play really well.
they're rolling 1-7 straight. Boise's been very inconsistent. They beat St. Mary's and they lose by 15 to Nevada, and it's a good home court. But if Hawaii Pacific can beat Boise Gym at home, then I think anyone can. And I would lean towards sticking with the Hot Lobos. I would kind of assume Boise would take a bit of money just because home teams in Mountain West I think get a little bit overplayed a bit. And I've been very impressed by New Mexico lately.
I just like that they make
Yeah,
they make Boise shoot. Like the reason Boise lost to the Hawaii Pacific is they settled for too many threes. It's not like they shot 20%, but you can kind of take Boise out of what they really do well offensively and kill their mojo by just making them shoot from the cheap seats. And I think Eric Olin and that kind of packed in offense, super heavy drop, I believe, and they'll mix in some zone too. We'll make them make shots. So
The spot makes me nervous with New Mexico 1-0 in league play, Boise State 0-1. You usually typically get the home run effort from the 0-1 team in that scenario. Back home opener in league play. So I'm not going to back New Mexico here, but I do like that matchup angle, Matthew. New Mexico's got to get healthy too, though. Bouillon and Howell both missed their Mountain West opener. It was 10 days ago, so I would kind of expect both of them back. But those are two starters that matter a lot. Howell's a guy that came with Olin from UC San Diego, and that continuity has mattered a lot in the backcourt. So I would just check on that if you're going to hop on the Lobos, but be careful of the spot.
yeah, and their backcourt is banged up early. I think Albury's been back and healthy, so it's been a tough kind of disjointed rotation for Olin. But to be 10-2 with a win at VCU and against Santa Clara, no nothing to snuff at for sure. All right, we're going to mid-major games. Our second section. There's a ton to choose from. Just for context, we got 5 Valley games tipping off Monday. We got 5 MAAC games, 5 Horizon games, 5 MAC games coming up on Tuesday, and a smorgasbord of other games. I love the highlight here, Jim, that picked out probably my favorite bet of the week, and I think I'm going to double down with the money line sprinkle and a spread bet here. So we'll maybe double dose on this game. Cal Baptist at Utah Valley. Get ready for the unprecedented triple round robin schedule. The first of, I presume, I think it's 3 meetings between these 3 teams, and the now skeleton whack. I just like it because Cal Bap's matchup this year, Jim, is just the way they're built with some real size up front. It's funny because KenPom's height metric sort of is misleading because they have small guards, but they have big bigs, and that's what you need up front to keep Utah Valley off the glass. As long as Dom Daniels is healthy, which is always a mystery, I think they're absolutely in this game all the way through against a Utah Valley team who's been good, but you're kind of catching them, I think, at the peak of their value in the market. And then another thing, they were both hyper competitive games last year, Rickroy and against Phillips, and I thought they had a worse roster, frankly, last year. So yeah, a lot sets up here for our Lancers. I like them, hopefully plus market will go 6 or 7. That's my guess at what the opener is going to be. I don't think it'll be 9. I think it'll be 6 or 7, but that's going to be enough for me.
Yeah, I think Utah Valley is overvalued right now. This is a good team, but they jumped like 25 spots when they beat Samford by 40. And that game is doing a lot of work for them analytically. So if you're going to give me 9 points with teams that I think are really close to even, and you can make a very strong argument that Cal Baptist has the best player on the floor with Daniels. I love the point you make about the size, Matthew, because they're playing 6'10" or 7 foot at center every time. They've got 3 guys rotating there. They're often playing 6'9" or 6'11" at power forward. They're huge up front. An incredible rebounding team, both ends of the court, and that's really carried them through the non-con. They were fantastic for a while until they went through this insane elevation gauntlet, playing at Colorado, BYU in Salt Lake, and then at Utah in 3 straight games. But that means they're accustomed to elevation. Like they have gone through the ringers with this. The spot is not going to scare them going to Utah Valley and playing at elevation. I love Cal Baptist here. I'm with Matt. I'll be taking +9 as an official bet. Down to like 7, I would take it to.
Me too, fellas. That makes it a 3-way, 3-man weave a bet here. Yeah, I'd be shocked if it was 9. I would love to get 9. And I have a ton of respect for Utah Valley's home court, but I watched Idaho State go toe-to-toe with them at Utah Valley. They should have won that game. I think Cal Bap can hang here, and Jim mentioned the road warriors that they've been already this season. They beat UCI on the road. They beat Oregon State on the road. They hung with Utah and Colorado in that mountain stretch. They did not hang with BYU, but it's BYU. They are much, much, much better than Utah Valley, Utah, Colorado. And they rebound the crap out of the ball. You guys already mentioned the big guys. 10th best rebounding team on the offensive end in the country. I think they scrapped their way to a cover here. I would also take it down to like 7. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be 6 or 7. Let's just be realistic about it. But I think 6 or 7 is still worth it for me. 4 to 5 is, I think you're paying a big old premium. At that point, it's probably a better money line play for me, frankly, than spread play. I'll highlight 2 of the MVC games you guys can pepper in. I know, Jim, you had a MAC and a Horizon game, but I like 2 of the Valley tilts here. Illinois State goes to Drake, and SIU Carbondale goes to Murray. I like both road teams. Drake, as you know, Jim mentioned why Utah Valley is overrated analytically. I think Drake's the same way. I just don't think that team's very good. I know Owen Larson's back, and maybe the market's sort of trying to anticipate his impact, but he's not looked like himself. His stats reflect that. Defensively, Henderson is basically not called him out, but talked about how he's been a struggle defensively, and he's not being great offensively either. And Illinois State just looks really good right now. I think people kind of thought they were sort of overrated to start the year, but I think they're the way they're starting to defend, they're getting some key, like Ty Pence has really emerged. I think they go on the road here and win this game. And then similar scripted for SIU Carbondale against Murray. I know my Fighting Salukis have kind of got off to a tough start, but it's a better matchup against Murray. It's like more of an open floor game. I think that favors Q House and just those more athletic wings that Carbondale has. I think they've run into some tough matchups, some matchup kryptonites in their opening Valley game. So I think Carbondale sneaks up on Murray, who's good, but again, like Utah Valley, I think Murray's sort of at the peak of their value in the marketplace right now.
Yeah, I did a lot of down in the spot section that we'll get to later, highlighting the matchups with the teams that are winless in conference play against teams that are undefeated, and the MVC's got a bunch of those, and Murray is one of those teams that's in that spot 2-0. taking on a team that's 0-2. You get a little bit desperate from the Salukis. I think that's a good spot. And I love Illinois State, Matt. I think this kind of is one of those revert to preseason priors a little bit with the start of league play. We expected Illinois State to be one of the top 3 teams in this league. They have started to play a lot better lately. They're getting like stud Chase Walker, which they were not getting to start the season, and that matters. He's probably the best player in that league when he's really right, especially on the offensive end. And Drake, yes, they've got Larson back. That helps a lot. He's kind of got the tie to the coach, the extension of the coach on the floor, transferred with him from South Dakota State. But I am not very high on the talent level of that roster. I don't really know what happened with Jalen Quinn last game, coming off the bench and only playing 16 minutes. He's been one of their best players all year. So that kind of set off an alarm bell for me too. I think it's a really good spot for Illinois State and not a bad travel in the MVC and just the more talented team that's trending up.
Yeah, I think a Drake play would just be, hey, they're at home, right, in this game. Because I think Chase Walker has a field day. I don't think Drake's inability to put any pressure on Illinois State is bad news for a team that can really score in the Redbirds. Matt, I'm with you on, excuse me, SIU. I think they've been pretty solid this year, actually, despite what their record says. They won at High Point. They took Nevada to overtime. They took Richmond to overtime, all on the road. None of those games are bad results at all. And they've started their first 2 games of Valley play. Tough schedule, man. You go home loss to Illinois State, who might be the best team in the league, and at Bradley, which nobody wins at Bradley. And even though Murray State is the best home court in the Valley, I think SIU can hang. The key stat here, SIU number 1 in the country in percentage of points scored via 2. Murray number 1 in the country in allowing that. They sell out. They protect the arc. SIU wants the mid-range, the paint, the rim shots. That's exactly what Murray State is going to give them. Plays right into their hands. So I do have a strong lean towards SIU in that game.
Yeah, I forgot. Princeton league-based status is pretty key. He's been an important athletic kind of Swiss Army knife, and they don't because they can't shoot. His activity on the glass has been missed, I think. But still, I think that Murray matchup's a good one. Good spot, as Jim I think talked about later too. Anything on Tuesday for you guys? I had nothing out. Jim, we talked about Boise, New Mexico a little bit. I thought the Miami Bowling Green game is intriguing in the MAC. Bowling Green is probably going to be favored against the presumed better team, the Redhawks, who have played a really soft schedule, not to their own fault because no one would play them. Pretty easy to not schedule a team that is bringing everybody back at that level. I feel like this might be a good Miami bet. Maybe you get a chance to bet the team that can shoot the crap out of it against a team that's going to play some zone. I don't know. That was one that stuck out to me just as an intriguing game, but again, nothing official for the many MAC tip-offs this week.
Well, that's your undefeated Redhawks, Matthew, going on the road. Bowling Green's been fantastic, like one of the big risers, up almost 100 spots in Ken Palm since the start of the season. Kind of a darling for a lot of people. Miami, meanwhile, is undefeated and is only up 14 spots. Tells you that they've been, pretty much playing to expectations. They played a terrible schedule. I don't have anything on that game, unfortunately. And I did, I highlighted in the outline the Horizon game with Oakland and Wright State, and then in the MAC, Marist and Quinnipiac, the two top teams in both those leagues, at least projection wise at this point per Ken Palm. So I wanted to at least touch on them because, hey, we respect them in majors. We respect big games here, Ky. I would lean towards Oakland in that game, but I don't bet the MAC. The MAAC, that is a conference that has been whack-a-mole for me for years and years. I'm not going to try to go and find John Dunn on the road as a dog. That would be my lean, but I am not going to recommend betting it, and I'm not going to bet it myself. So I can't, in good conscience or good faith, tell the people to go do it if I'm not going to do it myself.
I lean QPAC. Just going to say it. I hate betting against John Dunn, but I lean QPAC on that one.
Yeah, I finally had a good year betting them the Metro Atlantic last year, but this year I've been over betting them in non-con, so we'll see how that continues. Matt, my only problem with Bowling Green, it's no bargain. They're a 4-point favorite per Ken Palm before you even consider
I give you 2.
Ipsaro's.
2 is my opening projection, just to go.
No, Evan Ipsaro's out for the year for Miami, Ohio. Like, people know this. It's going to be like Bowling Green 6, I think. It's not going to be a bargain if you want Bowling Green in this game. And in fact, that number I'd lean towards Miami, Ohio, frankly, even without Ipsaro, their starting point guard, who is out for the year.
Yeah, Ipsaro's good. Yeah, I'm probably underselling him. I guess they had 2 point guards last year, so with Cooper, but now he's kind of the key handler there. Yeah, maybe you're right. Actually, maybe the injury gives you better value there to back the road team. All right, let's move on to section 3, live dogs. We mentioned Portland last week. That was bad. They got that was yeah, that was bad. Then Princeton should have won at Temple. Again, Temple is like the number one team I've lost more money betting on against over under any direction of wager involving that team. I can't win. But there's a ton of like I think more legitimate options this week. Conference play, motivation. You don't get like any just weirdly dead spots. Also, probably some variance. I get some teams coming out of the break. Maybe some flu bug catches like, some of these favorites at the wrong time. I'm going to underscore the Cal Baptist take I had earlier. This will be a money line play for me and a spread play. Jim, I like that you highlighted a couple here. So Monday you had Towson at William and Mary. Uh, that is it's Colonial, Coastal, whatever it's called now.
The Coastal.
Yeah.
Coastal.
The artist formerly known as the Colonial.
Colonial Coastal, the CCAA, I'll call it. And then Tarleton at UT Arlington. Any Texas-related whack matchup, betting the road team sounds smart in what is always generally a pretty chaotic game. So I'm curious what the prices on that one. And then Tuesday, you called out Wazoo, Washington State at Seattle. Probably going to be around a touchdown. And then NIU against Buffalo. Yeah, this is a quintessential. Did Buffalo just play over their skis in non-conference? Can they keep up their momentum now that there's somewhat of the book's out on them? That you got to defend Daniel Freitag and ball screens, and you got to keep Obo off the glass. You do that, you have a chance. And NIU, when healthy, certainly has more talent than they've had, and I mean probably since the Eugene Germain era. None of these stuck out as special plays to me, Jim. Which one are these all plays for you, or just a couple stuck out?
No, they're not all plays, Matthew. These are just discussion points. The one I really do like though is Towson. I think their physicality in CAA is a differentiator. Last year they were solid in the non-con and then they ended up winning the regular season title. Scary just plays a very specific style there. Pat Scary, the coach. They're always great on the offensive boards. They're not real good at getting to the free throw line this year and they can't shoot it. But they've still been competitive nonetheless. They've not scaled up very well against Houston or UCF or Kansas, but they don't have to against William and Mary, who is a team that I still think is benefiting quite a bit from beneficial three-point shooting defense. They're top 5 in the country in three-point percentage allowed, and I do not think their style or personnel is overly conducive to that. I think it's just luck. And in league play, perhaps that starts to trend against them. Towson, obviously not a good shooting team, so maybe that's not where the regression comes. But I still think the physicality inside is going to be a little bit much for Killian Brockhoff, the big man that kind of mans the paint for William and Mary. Their up and down style, I think it's easier to slow somebody down in league play. Towson, a very comfortable team in the half court. So give me the Tigers, Ky, +4 in the CAA opener for them.
I'm with you all over the Tigers. And my favorite bets are ones that I am against a team that I have bet on several times, right? I have been on William and Mary quite a bit this season, so I'm comfortable in my number with them. And if it's a game I'm fading them in, then I think I have the right side. And I think that's Towson. They've matched up one time in Brian Earl's career at William & Mary. Towson beat him by 15. It was a different year, of course. William & Mary's better this season, but I do think Towson's physicality really bothers them. I agree with Jim that, hey, last year William & Mary was 237th in three-point percentage defense. This year they're 5th. That's coming down. Again, Towson's not a great shooting team, but their physicality, their ability to play without fouling, their ability to win the glass battle, I think sets up really nicely for this game. I would definitely take them +4.
All right, let's move on to favorite favorites. Presented by, again, our fine sponsor at DraftKings. This has been a little easier this year because the non-conference, it's just a better section to target these. Now this section gets harder. I think will be probably trimmed out as the year goes on. Last we talked about Illinois, Towson, Georgia, and BYU, all of which won easily, but I think 2-2 is the official ATS record, depending on close. Maybe 3-1, depending on closing number.
The spreads are so different from KenPom.
Right.
Like
it's just like
6 or 7 points off what we're talking about.
So for these games, you really have to really project what the actual number is going to be, especially like at a reasonable part of the, mid-morning of the day, unless you're betting overnights, which, congrats to you. But this week we actually have some kind of the last remnants of bye games. And I had a note to myself to try and bet against these dogs in their last bye game before conference play coming out of the break. But I think this could also work against the favorite. I tried to look at some data on this, like the games, basically the dates of November or December 26th through December 31st, excluding Diamond Head and stuff like that. It wasn't really anything profound that stuck out to me. So just kind of handicap it as you would normally, but know that there's probably going to be some weirdness. The one that stuck out to me, Jim, you mentioned this Monday, there's a lot of options. Michigan versus McNeese. I just think McNeese's style is just going to be completely ransacked by Michigan. They tend to play bigger than their size, but if you can handle their pressure, I think they can be a runaway very quickly. And because of how well they play, just how good they are, you're going to get probably a cheapish price to lay it with Michigan. A price you might see them laying in a couple of games, honestly, in Big Ten play. That's the one that stuck out to me. The other ones you wrote down, Jim, are intriguing but not great. And Michigan State Cornell certainly could be a bloodbath with how Cornell plays. Vandy, New Haven, no Frankie Collins, doesn't matter. And Oklahoma versus Mississippi Valley State. Any team versus Mississippi Valley State, good luck if you're back in the Delta Devils. Anything on Monday that stuck out to you guys for your official choices here? I don't think I actually have anything official from this slate, for what it's worth.
It's tough here, Ky, because you've got basically every team playing this one last patty cake before league play. And teams like Michigan, Houston, Michigan State, the ones Matt mentioned, but also Arizona, Illinois, Iowa State, Iowa, teams that have been awesome in these home buy game spots with large spreads. It's just really hard to endorse them without knowing the real price. Like I'm looking at Illinois minus 28 for Southern. Is that number actually going to be 33? Well, I'm not taking 33. Iowa State minus 33 versus Houston Christian. That's probably going to be close to 40. I'm not going to stretch beyond my limits here and try to dig up winners. I would say if I had to go with a favorite of this batch, it's probably Iowa, to be quite honest. Mm-hmm. They have been so good as a home favorite, which isn't really what I came into the season expecting out of Ben McCollum team, like the patience. I thought it'd be a really good underdog style, but they have eviscerated small competition, and UMass Lowell is not a good team. Like they are bad. They turned over almost the entire roster from last year. They've gotten a little bit better in recent games, like the first early portion of the year. They were horrific. They lost to UConn by 63 for anybody looking for a potential outcome here. So Iowa, it's 28 per Ken Pom Kai. I think I'd take it to 32. I don't know exactly what it'll be, but if it's 34, I will sit out.
I'm taking it up to 35, Jim. I fully expect Iowa to win by 40 or 50. I think they're going to force 20 turnovers. I'm not sure they're going to be stopped a single possession. And even though Lowell will try to keep it low possession, I don't think it's going to matter. Iowa's going to score every single time down the floor, and I don't expect Lowell to get a ton of shots up because of how good Iowa's defense has been at turning teams over and how sloppy the Riverhawks are with the ball. So, yes, give me Iowa in a massive beatdown.
I feel bad for Pat Duquette. I feel like did a pretty
He blew it last year.
There.
He blew it last year.
Yeah, last year I feel like the stink has rolled into this year, and now we've forgotten how good his teams were 3 years before that. Tuesday, we got some WCC action. I think we'll have a lot of favorite options to discuss in WCC anytime Gonzaga takes the floor, and St. Mary's in some spots as well. Zag's going to probably be laying, close to 4 touchdowns at San Diego. St. Mary's at Pepperdine. I think there'll be some spots to fade both these teams on the road in WCC play. I don't know what the matchups are quite yet, but I do think there is some lurking, undervalued talent in the meddling part of WCC this season. I don't think Pepperdine's in that class, but I do think San Diego qualifies, and I do think Loyola Marymount, who's on the card tonight, Sunday, as we record, who has actually given St. Mary's some problems historically, qualifies as well. But I have nothing here, and you guys have plays on these two against the home dogs, the big home dogs.
No, I actually played Pepperdine small mat today, plus 30 against Gonzaga. Fun fact about that one, I know it doesn't matter for this podcast. Last 5 years, Gonzaga has won by an average of 16 points per game at Pepperdine and an average of 34 points per game at home against Pepperdine. So It's a big difference at home and away there. Not saying they're going to cover, but I like them there. I'm not sure about San Diego. They have the talent, I guess, but it's going to take a lot for me to step in front of Gonzaga in WCC play in general this season because they are that dominant this season.
Yeah, they have typically helped or at least steadied the analytics by smashing those bad teams in league play. That's why they shortened the league schedule so they could play more games in non-con. Gonzaga is a total juggernaut. Those teams can't stand up to them. But yeah, Ky, maybe they're getting pedicures in Malibu, and that's why they're not quite as effective on the road at Pepperdine. I'm very tempted by Gonzaga at San Diego. San Diego just lost by 30 to Washington. We kind of hit that one on the head last week on this very show. They can play up, but I also think they're sloppy and could get absolutely gashed at the rim. They're 297th in 2-point percentage defense, despite not playing that good of a schedule. And Gonzaga is going to beat them up inside with Ike and Huff. So I am tempted by Gonzaga, Matt. I don't know what the number's going to be, though, so I'm just going to leave it alone for now.
Yeah, I can't quite figure out Lavin's team this year. Just a roster scheme, it's always in flux. So you just don't know what you're getting there. All right, that was our favorite favorites, again, presented by our fine sponsor at DraftKings. Let's move on to spots, which we sort of alluded to a little bit above, but a lot of good conference angles. Just again, some anecdotal spots we try and at least circle to dig into deeper. So last week we talked about the Washington San Diego disaster, Washington drilling the Toreros by 30. We also talked about UCF, FAU. FAU got the narrow cover, back-to-back narrow covers by the Owls after going to St. Mary's covering by a hook there as well. Bellarmine continues to be a cover machine, losing only by 14 to the by-game bully Kentucky Wildcats. Pretty impressive. Maybe a good spot, though, as we talked about. And then St. John's and Ohio State covered the KenPom fair, but again, you're laying big numbers as a favorite. You're paying a big tax. So that's why it's kind of tricky to talk about that with so far in advance. So Monday, Missouri Valley Conference Gym, 0-2, 2-0, SIU at Murray, Evansville at Bradley, -6, -13 respectively per KenPom. I think those feel actually reasonable in terms of projections. And then 0-2 Indiana State hosting Belmont. Belmont probably going to be close to a 10-point road favorite, maybe 8. I'm going to guess 8's the opener there. And then 0-1 Valpo at 1-0 Northern Iowa, 12-point spread per KenPom. This is the one I like the most with the road beacons. I like Valpo's size. I think they're feisty as a dog. And while UNI is good, they've had some injury issues. Their roster's been a little bit depleted. I think this plays like a true gritty road MVC conference game that plays in Valpo's favor. So I think Valpo loses by like 70 to 62. And
I hate that the one I respect that, Matthew. The one I like is Evansville at Bradley. That feels gross. Ooh, Kai's nodding. I like to see that. Okay. Evansville's a much better team when Turnbull's on the floor. I mean, he is like a total monster. He's one of the best shot blockers in the entire country. They've gotten a little bit better guard play than I expected. Quinnett's not been very good as a freshman, but like I like Keyshawn Porter. They're best in the paint. They need to turn this into a half court game. And Ky, one thing I do like about Evansville's profile is the 3-point shooting numbers are terrible on both ends of the floor. Like they're sub 30, their opponents are almost 40%. I'm thinking league play starts to give that back a little more to the mean, a little bit of regression positively on both ends. And as scary as the Bradley home court is, this isn't quite the same Bradley team this year. Jaquan Johnson's been as good as expected with his sophomore breakout, but the rest of the roster isn't overflowing with athleticism or size. There's a lot of youth on that team. I think Evansville can hang around there, keep it within that 13. I take it down to 12.
I totally agree, Jim. And they hung with two of the better teams. Belmont's been incredible this season. Evansville's right there. At home, albeit, but still impressive effort. They almost beat Drake at home as well. Now they're going on the road, but I agree with you. Bradley's not quite Bradley of years past, and I think Evansville's a pretty tough dog. Raglan teams really scrap, very gritty defense. They definitely slow it down offensively. So I think you could get a pretty low possession game in this one. So I do like Evansville. We talked about SIU Murray, how I lean towards the Salukis already. I'm not getting in front of Belmont anytime soon, frankly. I was on Evansville against them, and I don't even think they had Turnbull in that game. But I think this Belmont team rocks. After the Irvine game, I was like, oh, okay. Casey Alexander, pretty good coach. And then the Valpo one, I have no opinion on. But, man, I love the Valley, Matthew. This is the best conference in mid-majoredom.
Yeah, I'm glad it's kind of not – it's bounced back this year, but it's just good. I mean, Murray is totally flipped in what you're seeing from even the bottom is better. So Tuesday, Mountain West has a second leg or second conference game. They all played one before the break. Colorado State versus Nevada. The Rams are 0-1 there. Boise against New Mexico. Talked about that earlier. Boise 0-1 actually in league play. Fresno against Utah State. San Jose State against San Diego State. I like San Jose State first half because every year Tim Miles is tied with Brian Dutcher at the half, and then Brian Dutcher goes ballistic at halftime, and then San Jose State goes on a 30-2 run in the first 4 minutes. So that's I'm just telling you that's exactly how the game's going to play out right there. Fresno Utah State Kai is interesting because Fresno has been sneaky competitive. They're long, they're not very athletic, but they can shoot. And I wonder against Utah State's zone and just general makeup, maybe that's actually an effective type of feisty dog profile. I didn't pull a trigger on any of these here full game, but what sticks out to you?
Yeah, I can't back Fresno. I think Utah State's ridiculous this season, but I prefer to fade them on the road. If you're going to give me a choice, I'm not fading them at home anytime soon. I do like your angle with San Jose State first half. We know San Diego State's offense has not been good at all this season, and for a half, I think Timmy Miles can drum up something to hang with them. And yeah, as you said, they're going to get forked in the second half, per usual. Colorado State bounce back, Jim, intrigues me a little bit. They got absolutely destroyed by Utah State. Nevada, not quite as good as an opponent, definitely vulnerable. Good chance for the Rams, I think, to bounce back there.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with Jorgensen for Colorado State. That's kind of the big thing I'm looking at. He came back for that game after missing a non-D1, but only played 4 minutes, exited after that. He was so good for them for the early stretch of the year when they couldn't miss a three, and he was giving them like stretch five while also being super helpful on the glass and dominating the interior, shooting over 70% from the field. I don't know what to do with them without him. I think he's really crucial. Booth has been good after being at Notre Dame and Illinois, but he is not the same kind of player. He's a little more perimeter-y and doesn't want to like be banging on the boards quite as much, especially on the offensive end. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on Jorgensen. I don't have a lot of takes here in the Mountain West, Matthew. It's another conference I've sort of struggled with over the years. As long as if I back home teams at elevation, that's kind of where I've found some success. But none of these spots are like ones where I'm itching, chomping at the bit to
Yep.
jump on board.
And then Jimmy, I noticed you mentioned I wanted to skim past this because I didn't. I'm tired of putting Marquette on my consideration card, but the Eagles are playing Seton Hall. Does this intrigue you at all?
I
Seton
like
Hall
Seton Hall.
probably laying, I don't know how much,
I guess that's kind of the ultimate
7?
question, but I like Seton Hall. I've kind of stopped trying to find the bottom for Marquette because nothing about their analytical profile says like, oh, they're just getting unlucky. Like this team's just bad. They're just not very good. They don't know how to score. They don't have offensive weapons. They don't have a pecking order. They're still trying to figure it out with Sean Jones versus Nigel James at point guard. They're inexperienced. They don't have any transfer help. That's been like the big, well-documented thing here. Lowry missed last game. I think he's a rather important shooter, wing piece for them. And Seton Hall off a loss. I think this defense just suffocates a terrible offensive team. Marquette can really only score when they like are able to get out and run. And Seton Hall is just way too disciplined defensively to allow that. I don't know if Baby Shaq's coming back, Najai Hines. He's been like out with an illness, Kai. I'm saying that with air quotes for our audio listeners because Holloway's been really vague in the press conferences talking about what the real issue is. But with Payne there, they've got enough oomph in the paint. The ball pressure, I think, will turn Marquette over. I like Seton Hall there on the road. I just think we got to stop pretending Marquette has a floor and realize they're terrible.
Yeah, stop trying to catch the falling knife, to borrow Stucky's term. Since that Oklahoma game for Marquette, where they almost won, pretty pivotal moment. They won in overtime against Valpo. They got smoked by Wisconsin, smoked by Purdue, almost double digits against Georgetown, and then smoked by Creighton. It has not been good. They're 2-10 against the spread. That's one of the worst marks in the entire country. They're not covering games by over 7 points right now. That's not something you want to step in front of. And Seton Hall is great defensively, Matt. They truly are a lead on that end, and clearly the better team right now.
Let's take out the trash quickly. Um, One good one this week, though. One good pile of trash. We talked about Binghamton Army last week. Went to overtime. Army won by 10. Terrific game to not bet. Sorry for those who were involved on the wrong side there.
I was.
Ky Mckeon, sorry about your loss.
Thanks.
Let's discuss this. It's a new fresh pile of rubbish for you this week. Delaware State playing Rutgers. Man, talk about one of these power conference teams where it's just like, how bad can they possibly be? Rutgers certainly has mid-major, if that, talent. Ken Pom has them playing Delhi State, laying 17. I mean, God, I don't know how you can lay more than 10 to any team Rutgers plays at this point. And they typically aren't a great favorite. So I actually like Delhi State in this game if it's like anything 12 or higher, but I doubt it will be. That's just my 2 cents there.
My only thing is Dell State has not played well against power teams. If you count Rutgers as a power team, they lost by 40 to Syracuse and 46 to Miami. Now Rutgers not quite as good as either of those teams, but that would tend to scare me off, Jim. They just might not be able to step up whatsoever in competition. And Rutgers, for all their shortcomings, it is a step up in competition.
Yeah, Rutgers might be the worst P5 team, but they are still P5, as you mentioned. Delaware State, I've tried to play them a few times this season, bet on them, and it's gone terribly. And they're shooting under 40% from two. That is terrible. And it's not like they've played one of these incredible SWAC schedules. They're 248th in strength of schedule right now, and they just can't score. There's no offensive talent on this team. I would be sort of inclined to back the under here. Rutgers has not been getting out in transition the way I thought Pikel would try to do with this team because they don't have a ton of paint machines. They've got a lot more wingy roster, more guard heavy. I think it'll be slow. Delaware State wants to play slow for sure. The one concern is that Delaware State is so bad defensively, Rutgers could luck into 85 points. So I like the under. I'm not going to add it as an official bet. I'll see what the number is and maybe look into a little closer on the day of the game on Monday. But that's my inclination with that one, Matthew. That is the disgusting trash that Rutgers is.
All right, let's do a quick spotlight section here. And as I came up with the idea for this section, I realized there's just not a lot of meat on the bone here. But it's worth bringing up, I think, more because all the hoopla that came with the James Nagy signing going to Baylor, coming from FC Barcelona, just farther stretching the rules of who can play and who can't and when, and inciting just a pitchfork mob of people pissed off at Baylor. So Baylor has become like the public enemy #1 team this year because of this signing alone. But the point of the section is be aware of the newly eligible second semester guys and the random late international pickups, of which there are not that many, but there are a few, and there might be more that sneak up on you. Najee is the one, though, that's at least worth bringing up because he is probably a difference maker for a team that needs depth at that 5 position. The former Arizona recruit, for those who remember him way back when. I think, Jim, you know these guys better than I do. Like, is there anyone else in this list that we have here that really moves the needle for any of these teams?
I would keep an eye on Zapina, Nikola Zapina for Washington. He played 21 minutes in that win over San Diego that we talked about. He had 7 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. He's a real stretch big. They never got, and I don't know if they're ever going to get, Ignacevic healthy, the Lipscomb transfer that has been out the entire season. So they got a little thin up front, and they played him a real role against San Diego. And I know it was a blowout, but they were trying to get him run. They were trying to get him shots. He took 7 shots in 20 minutes. I would just keep an eye on him. He's not a needle mover yet, but as he maybe gets more ingratiated into the lineup, if Yates is still out, they need shooting. He could end up being the type of guy that spaces the floor for Steinbach and Kepnang in the paint. So I would just keep an eye on him. That's my take there.
I think maybe I would issue some caution about over-indexing on some of these guys. Like, I think the hype is more than the impact. Like Najee, for instance, I think Baylor could really use him. I'm not sure he's worth 3 or 4 points, for instance, or what the market might overreact to once he's eligible. He's getting a lot of hype, clearly. There's a reason he's not playing in the NBA right now, right? I don't think it could be as massive a swing as people quite think. Some of these guys will certainly help. He will certainly help. Just be careful on the extreme market moves if you're going towards that way.
The Thierry Darlin stuff with Santa Clara, I think, has really kind of soured some people's perception.
Sure, yeah. He's not been great.
Not been that great. All right, let's recap our picks from last week, which I'm blanking on my last 2 picks. I need to find that out real quick and then tally my year-to-date record here. But more importantly, what are we picking this week? I have 6, maybe 7 on the dock. Jim, I'll go to you first. What's your?
I think we're all very aligned on Cal Baptist.
Yeah,
taking him down to
Cal
7.
Baptist in the section.
I think it's going to be a very competitive game to start WAC play there. Just 2 evenly matched teams. I'm on board with Illinois State, Matt. It's -1 at Ken Pom. I'd take it, 2. I would not lay anything over 3. I don't think it'll get there at Drake, especially with Larson back. But I'm going to ride the Redbirds with the way they're playing now. Towson +4 down to 3 in their CAA opener at William and Mary. Evansville plus 13, take it down to 12. And Seton Hall at Marquette, I'm going to take up to 5. It does feel a little gross, road favorite with that team that's way more defense heavy. But I just think Marquette's that bad. So Ky, that is what I've got this week. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my 5-pack.
Love it. I got a 3-pack. I got Cal Baptist on the spread. I'll also take it down to 7. Yep. Towson +3 or +4 against William & Mary. And I'm going Iowa in an absolute blowout against UMass Lowell up to 35, call it. Ken Palm's got a 28. It'll be closer to 35. Matthew.
Cal Baptist spread, Cal Baptist money line, my first 2. I mentioned my 2 Missouri Valley Road special, 2 for Illinois State, as Jim mentioned. And I also like SIUC Carbondale, who should be a 5-ish point dog. Maybe I get an extra point there. Market seems to like Murray, and certainly understand why. I also like Cal, as I talked about against Louisville there. And then I think Michigan is going to be a team. I'm going to just trust my instinct there that spread opens around like 25. I think like close to 30, we're just getting outrageous. But I think if it's in mid-20s, that'll be my official 6th play of the week. So that concludes our BBOC podcast. Conference play is finally upon us, the best chapter of the college basketball year. Thank you to our fine sponsor once again at DraftKings, my colleagues Jim and Ky. Enjoy your New Year's. We'll see you next week.